All right, welcome to Roleplay Cafe. It's Dale here. This is a recap of session 69 of the Chronicles of Joth, um, which I'll entitle uh, A Moth to the Flame. All right, so we pick up after the discovery that Draven, the jeweler, has been dredged up out of the canal, dead. We're trying to meet up with him to find out what his uh, interaction with sister Grin was all about. Right? We had Laszlo had been approached by her, or by this bleak, parchment-smelling Will Witch, which later on we find out from Mother Vima that she was part of their sisterhood of well witches, but had since gone down a dark path. And she was now known as Sister Grin. So, all right. And this is some of the bone jewelry that we had. The iconography on it aligned itself to that cult, that enclave. It has something to do with the undead, vampires. We know that there are vampire hunters around Joth right now because we've already had an interaction with them, and actually, unfortunately, maybe took out several in our earlier campaign, our earlier session. But now we know a little bit more, but we're still confused, right? Obviously, especially Nook. So Laszlo sends us to Draven, who was originally the gnome jeweler that we were looking for, that we had been sent on a quest by George and Hilda to go find. So we wanted to complete that test, even though David's old character, Melnoth, had been approached, and someone in his sect higher up wanted to see him, right? So we get multiple paths. We got diverted off that. So we speak with Sister Vima, who lets us know that there's an apostate of Sister Grin that switched sides. She's dangerous. We're tracking her trail down. We know that she had come into contact with the jeweler, Darwin. So we head that way. Find out from the midget behind the counter, which I can't recall her name, the bartender, that he was dredged up out of the canal. I mean, all this led to the situation last night. What do we want to do about it? So we're doing a little detective work over the last couple of at least the last couple of sessions, right? So we're trying to track down some more information. So we had to find out that the city guard had taken the bodies. So we're trying to find out, go to the morgue to see if we can identify if it is not Draven, but Darwin, the jeweler there. So we go across the river, pay the ferryman to get us across, but we have to go back near the burned, ruined desolation that Moth had instigated in that part of the city. I think it took out 5-6 buildings, right? And the charred remains have, by the time we reached the morgue, and there's the guard there, and after a little bit of Ferris, David's new character, is kind of leading the way on this. So he's a priest, he's a brother, and he tries to walk straight in there. Has a little bit of of a thing with the guard. You know, guard's like, "Where are you going?" And I'm going in to perform last rites, you know, for Darwin, basically. And the guard's like, "Well, you know, would you want to give a little coin to the? There's supposedly some institution that you give monies to the police, and they will give it to the orphans and whatnot, right?" And Ferris generously says, "Yes, of course, yeah, we'll do that." And then he asks, of course, you would, you know, like to in turn give a donation too, and about how much. And they agree that it's a wash, essentially, you know. So the guard lets it pass and lets us through without that one goal, that rite of passage, right? And breathes a sigh of relief as we go inside. One of the scribes, you know, we're like, "Darwin, where is he?" And he points in a direction, and we head immediately over there. Nook does, right, and removes the burial shroud or the cloth that's over the body, because Nook's under the impression that Darwin, he thinks that Laszlo is actually Darwin. So he's confused, and he thinks that his friend that he's been sharing pints with, that he believes is Darwin, who actually is Laszlo, is laying under the sheets. And he pulls it back, and it's female. She's charred and burned from one of the victims of the fire. Right? I think there was like 27 victims or so. So that, you know, this morgue is inundated with fresh fresh bodies, or not so fresh, but anyway. So Ferris comes over too. But this time we're all asked to roll Constitution rolls, and Nook and Ferris fell and emptied the contents of their stomach on the other side of the slab, and Moth is the only one who contains himself, right? So the guard's like, no, not that slab, the other one over there. So we replace it, and you know, when Nook had breathed a sigh of relief, no, this is not his friend Darwin. So he immediately kicks up and runs over to the next thing, like a fresh, you know, this, oh my God, not here, but over there. So he runs over there and he uncovers the next one, and it is a wet remains of someone that was pulled up out of the canal, right? It is a dwarf, but he's not seeing his friend Darwin. In his mind, he's not seeing Laszlo as Darwin. So he breathes another sigh of relief. They begin to poke and prod and look for, you know, look on this corpse. They being Ferris and Moth. I think Moth essentially him like pulling his teeth up, looking for fangs and whatever, and it's a little bit like Moth doesn't understand. He fails another Constitution roll, throws up again. They're you know, what are they doing, poking and prodding on this corpse like this, right? So anyway, after they have had their fill, you know, it covers him up, and then we begin to leave, and we hear bones cracking, and splitting, and 6 squishy sounds happening. I turn around, and where we had just left, I think it was Ferris that was almost at the door, was trying to ignore it, you know, talk above it, but he turns around to look, and this corpse that they had just been examining with sheet and all just flies up immediately, tentacles coming out of it, attaches itself to the ceiling and pulling the body up with it. It's part of the body, right? Don't know what's going on now. Nook turns around, and he's got his axe in hand. He's at the ready. Now the sheet's covering up the body, so Moth takes out his halberd and, you know, deftly hooks the sheet and pulls it. It reveals that, yeah, the tentacles are coming from the torso area of the body, but the body is like totally out of it, right? It's just basically plantar food for what is extended out of the torso area of the corpse, right? So the head's lolled and everything like that, and then he hits it for like very solidly, right? Knocks it down, pulls it off like for 11 points. It lands on the other side of the slab. Nook runs around, finishes it off with his axe, splits it in twain on the ground, and it's laying there. We leave. We tell the guard to watch the door, hold it, because they lock the door, because the rest of the city could get infected, or you don't need to let loose this. You know, report it to your seniors, as it were. And anyway, he Ferris asked him who was over. He was the captain of the guard. He says, "Well, Captain Vesset is, and where's he located?" So we set about to go talk to Captain Vesset and let him know what was going on. Now Ferris approaches the captain immediately. The captain kind of brushes him off, that he don't have time to deal with that. They're having to deal with the horror that was this fire that had consumed, 2 whole city blocks, and he's still dealing with that, much less some kind of and he's actually smelling Ferris's breath to see if he's drunk. And Ferris, of course, is affronted by this, because he's a man of the cloth, and he backs up, chastises him over it, and anyway, he makes some parting comment that the pleasure was all his, he was sure. Then we leave, and it's decided upon that we need to go back to the area. I feel like I'm skipping something here, but we need to go back to the area to this is when Moth we asked some questions about whether there was any kind of we go speak with the guard that had actually taken drug up. We get led to the guard. Vesset tells us who the guard was that was drug up Darwin out of the out of the canals. So we go up more into ground zero, where the fire started, and of course the descriptions of the carnage and everything, and even we're passing by a cinder brewery, and Moth makes some joke to while all this time, like, Ferris is in, he's you can tell he's tormented about all these souls around him going through all this pain and anguish of this fire and having to deal with it, and who would have done this. And we're kind of following in line, and then Moth makes kind of some reference to the Cinder Brewery, like the irony of it, is sitting in there, it's burned to a crisp, and who would have thought? And of course, Nook laughs along like he's in on the joke, which he's just happy to be included in something, whether he realizes that what the context of the joke is or not. At least they're not laughing at him directly, which is his main MO, is to keep out of that firing line. Anyway, get there, and then Ferris speaks to the guard and asks him, and I think Moth does some work. Nook is relatively quiet on this. He thinks a little bit like they're going on a wild goose chase, and it's just not Darwin. Why are we still, searching? We know where Darwin is. What's the deal? We didn't see that. Other than this horrific thing that happened with this tentacled being, exploding out of the body or whatever. This will be to his chagrin once he discovers that after Moth and Ferris speak to the guard that had dredged him up, and they realized, they asked him if there was anything that he had noted, because earlier Moth had, maybe around this time, he had produced the bone ring with the icon on it. Well, yeah, right after the guard says that he noticed there was a tattoo behind the ear of Darwin, which they didn't notice when they were doing examination on his head. So at this point, I think Moth pulls out the ring, and then Fierce is like, "Where'd you get that?" What, you know? Said, "Well, I was given it. You know, a friend of mine passed away, and I'm now the owner of it. You know." So he's okay, and it's, you know, what does this mean? So they're kind of drawing clues together, and they wonder if there was a tattoo, or maybe it was a brand. They asked him. It could have been a brand. I don't know. You know. So they want to check this, and so it ends up to where we go back to, like I said, much to Nook's chagrin, sanity, go back to the morgue where he left that guard to tend to the door. And when we get there, we have a little talk with him. They get the key back to go in. Nook unlocks the door, peeks in. He does not want to go in there. Doesn't understand why, but don't want to question it because he doesn't really know what's going on. Moth goes in, as well as Ferris, and then Nook follows. And we get there to the slab. There is no torso. There's head, arms, a leg. It seems that the torso is totally missing now from where it had been laying there. But Moth's like, all we need is the head. He picks it up, flips it around, looks at it, and yep, and then pulls out the ring, lines it up, and says, it was a brand. So kind of now we know. And then we hear something squishing about in the back and see the trail leading into the back of the area. And they want to go back there. Now, at this point in time, Nook's kind of paranoid. His head's on swivel. He's looking at all these bodies laying around here. He doesn't really know what to do. Earlier when the priest was there and he saw this body, you know, raise up or whatever, he thought it was in the purview of the priest to take care of this. You know, something's coming back to life in horrific ways. You know, we deal with it. What should we do? Should we attack it? They did, and he felt lucky that they got out of that situation. Now they're back into it. It seems like the torso has ran off on its own, slithered off on its own. Anyway, we decide to follow it to the back. I don't know why. Nick plays along, and in the corner, we see it up in the cabinetry, up in the recesses and the shelf work, moving around, some tentacle horror. And they try to shine a light on it, and it squeals and goes off, and Rickon orders that, you know, is scared of the fire. You know, we should put it to the flame, because in his mind, we need to burn this whole place down, because all these bodies could potentially be harboring this, you know, this thing. If we can't, you know, either we're going to get rid of this through a rite of you know, some kind of evisceration of demons or whatnot, or either we need to burn it all, cleanse it that way. One of the two. It's the only thing he can think of. And he sees Moth over there ready with the vial, which he had mentioned earlier on our first visit. So it's like, yeah, light it up. So he does. He lights it up, throws it. There are vials of chemicals in there, which some of them get aflame, and it bites Ferris for 1 point, and bites Nook for 6 points of damage as they try to leave, and all the smoke billowed up and all the methane gases. Right, so we're trying to leave there. We leave out and escape, shut the door, and still tell the guard to, you know, hold fast, because it is him and him alone that can hold back this evil from consuming the city. You know what I mean? Like, stand your post and stay strong and whatnot. Okay. And as best as I can think of right now, that's fairly right where we ended it. To step out into the city and decide which avenue or which path that we need to take. And that's what we'll be deciding beforehand when session 70 opens. Anyway, great session, a lot of great role playing, a lot of these characters are really coming into their own and having a dynamic with each other that's kind of unique. And I love the way that we play and don't meta the game. We play from the character's perspective, and these characters play off of one another and leverage each other, but still in a way that where we, I guess, feel like we need to have each other's back for one reason or another. So, yeah, it's cool in that respect, and I love the little mystery we get going on here. Something's going down, and it's definitely I got a hint at the Todd. It's very enticing to try to discern. So it isn't a break like we just need to role play more. It's really kind of pulling those threads to see if any of them are connected to something larger to where we can unravel more. Anyway, everybody have a great day, and we'll catch up. As far as the AP, had a power outage last night. I don't know if I can save any of the recording. It seems that everyone in my area had some power disturbance, okay, on a larger scale, but it's back on now. So I'll see what I can do about putting up some of the AP, but that'll have to be a little bit later. All right, take care, all.